Welcome to Meet the Candidate with your host, Sue Lonnie Madsen. Meet the Candidate is your opportunity to see local candidates and hear about the experiences that have shaped their lives. Meet the Candidate is a nonpartisan community project brought to you by our friends at Greater Spokane Incorporated, Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, We Believe, We Vote, and Better Spokane. Now, here's Sue Lonnie.
Okay, welcome to Meet the Candidate, and my guest for this session is Matthew Sutherland, who is running for the 9th Legislative District, State Representative, Position 2.
Well,
welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on here. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad that you could come up, make it into the studio. We're happy to have you. We start all of these conversations with just a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and spent your childhood.
Well, I grew up on the west side in Tacoma, and basically when I became an adult, I came over to Eastern Washington. I haven't left. It's absolutely gorgeous here, a wonderful place to be, and WSU is the best school in the nation, so obviously I wanted to stay. But I think the most impact that I've had is probably through the military. I joined the Army when I was 17. I have been in ever since in one form, shape, or another, and now I'm an officer candidate in the National Guard.
Oh.
And so my roots here in Washington State, and when I came out here for WSU and went to school in Pullman, I went for a political science pre-law degree, certified in the physics major, and then after that, I ended up being accepted into the graduate program for global security policy. So even more reason to stay beyond just the wonderful people and the amazing culture that we have in Pullman and the 9th. So, a little bit, about sort of my involvement locally. Also the vice chair of the Whitman County Planning Commission, on the Board of Adjustment, on the Pullman Police Advisory Committee, and on the Board of Directors of a charity. So I'm really involved locally and love my community, and I definitely see myself as being a wonderful, part of an amazing group of folks in Whitman County. So.
That's an interesting kind of switch from a political science to you said you certified in a physics major?
I did. I ended up also doing research in an organic solar cell lab. So that was a lot of fun. I know it sounds like really boring, but...
No, it doesn't.
It's a lot of fun, and I also ended up going through the entire Modern Physics series. I think that's about as much as I can do, but I was really proud of the fact that, I was told that political science folks can't do science, and then I wanted to prove them wrong. So I ended up being in a lab, ended up going through very difficult courses in mathematics and the sciences, and I ended up doing pretty well, and now I've refocused back into the graduate studies in global security policy. So.
Oh, cool. It's a very interesting background to bring. One of the other things I like to ask folks is about the first job, first time you connect, work and money. There's a light bulb that has to go on for people, and what was that? So
my first thing that felt like an actual job, like an actual commitment beyond summer work, right?
Yeah.
Was the Army. I joined at 17.
Well, and that's a pretty responsible job.
Right. In the middle of high school, I went during the summer. I went off to basic combat training, and that for being in high school was quite a different environment for sure, and that was the first time that I felt like. There's no day that you get to relax, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely you are earning that paycheck, and so not only did I feel like that was the first time I had an actual job that felt meaningful, but I also was able to have that sense of fulfillment in doing something not just for myself, not just for a paycheck, but for the communities as a whole. So I think that was definitely a time for me where I was able to connect my career with a life of service, right? And so I think that connection has stayed with me till now. I'm still in the Army and still looking for ways to serve my community. So,
but you're a young man compared to some of the candidates in all of these races, the 80 races that I've sent out. So maybe you haven't had as much a chance to travel. That's another kind of education is getting to travel and check out other cultures and other places. Is there some place that you've been?
Yeah. Well, I've been all across the United States. From the Army likes to send you to some great
true.
places. Fort Benning. I've been in Mississippi. I've been to South Dakota, Montana. Most of the fun states, right? And I actually I volunteered to deploy on a humanitarian aid mission in El Salvador, and that was probably one of the best experiences of my life, where I got to work with international organizations, international militaries from Chile, from El Salvador, Honduras, from even the Koreas. We had folks come in from all over the place, all over the United States, working with civilian groups as well, working with nurses.
What was the mission?
So we were building clinics and schools for some of the poor communities in the Opico region, and we got to. I even made friends with some of the kids there. They would teach me Spanish every day because I would walk in, I'd say hi, and I didn't really know a lot of Spanish when I went there. But every day the kids would try to teach me a word or two, and I'd teach them a couple words in English, and it was a great time. And I think the best part was actually getting to lay the brick and mortar with my own hands. And I was a young non-commissioned officer at the time. I mean, I was still young, but I was starting to learn a lot about leadership at the time, and the Air Force captain, because I was even inter-service, right? The Air Force captain took me under his wing. He knew I was going to be there for a while, and after getting like some of the on the ground experience, like working with my hands and all that, he also showed me some more of the command perspective and how to organize all these different groups together, how to meet the mission standards that he was given, and sort of mentored me as well. So I learned a lot from that experience. I even have friends from that that I still talk to today. I was just talking to Captain Bustos about the kids that he has. He has a daughter and a son in Chile, and they're about like 3 and 4 years old now, and he just absolutely loves them. Posts about them on Instagram all the time. So I still get to keep in touch with a lot of these folks.
That's cool. Those are truly educational experiences. So, so what prompted you to decide to run for elected office? Not everybody does that.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's how can I better serve my communities, and I looking at folks around the 9th, and a lot of people are struggling to afford just basic parts of their life. They're struggling to afford health care, right? I've talked to several people now who say that they are even postponing their retirement because they can't afford the health care outside of their job, right? And that's not something that I think we should be facing. That's not the American dream, right? You're supposed to work hard, be able to retire in dignity. We're not fully funding education. I talked to rural administrators of these school districts, and they're telling me that they still have to beg for funding for basic things, right? And I want to make sure that people have jobs and economic opportunity in this district. And to me, JFK and Robert Kennedy ran off the platform helping folks in poverty by making sure that there was economic opportunity. I like to take that approach and make sure that we have that in the 9th, that we're working on infrastructure projects, that we're putting local people to work, and we're helping our local communities. So that's why I ran for office, is because I see the problems and I see an opportunity to fix them, and I want to do my best to help.
I think you already answered the last question, but you can have the last minute for the last word. How do you see the duties of this elected office, and why should voters choose you?
Well, I'm here to be in service, right? I'm serving my communities. I'm going to do what's best for the folks here in the 9th. I'm going to represent them. I knock on doors every single day. I'm making sure that I'm connecting with voters and hearing what their issues are. And we haven't had that kind of leadership in the 9th in decades, right? We haven't had people address these problems. We have a lot of folks that are just there to vote no on a lot of things and not make any progress forward. We're not helping the communities. We're stagnating. And I want to make sure that we're working towards progress. We're helping fund education for our kids, make sure that people are able to financially afford their health care, and make sure that people have jobs and economic opportunity.
Okay. Thank you for coming,
Matthew.
Matthew.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Enjoy your 4-month campaign.
Thank you so much, Miss.
Right.
Thanks for watching Meet the Candidate. Spokane Talks thanks our community-minded partners, Greater Spokane Incorporated, the Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, We Believe We Vote, and Better Spokane for helping make Meet the Candidate possible.